Okay, hello and welcome. I hope you can hear me well. Okay, like this. So I would like to talk to you about our recent initiative on the biotechnology and biomanufacturing. And I think it's a very fitting topic here for the Hannover Messe, where the innovation converges and industry transforms. And I'm really happy that you take an interest in this topic. And it's really exciting times for the biotech industry, and especially now as we stand before the European Parliament elections. And I think the decisions we're making today will really shape the landscape of biotech for the years to come. And it's really crucial to see how we can together navigate those changes. And we adopted on the 20th of March this recent initiative, which I'm going to present to you, which I think lays the ground for a significant step forward in our commitment to drive innovation, sustainability, and economic growth within the biotech sector. So, what are we talking about? Biotechnology and biomanufacturing are not just buzzwords. They represent really the forefront of scientific innovation and offer solutions to some of the most pressing issues we are facing today. So biotech and biomanufacturing play pivotal roles in addressing global challenges such as the green transition of the industry, food security, environmental sustainability, and healthcare. So if you look at the definition, which we commonly use, biotechnology is the application of science and technology to living organisms, as well as parts, products, and models of them, to alter living or non-living materials for the production of knowledge, goods, and services. So a pretty broad definition. And then we also have biomanufacturing, which takes those principles of biotechnology and applies them to the production of chemicals, products, and energy. But of course, it goes beyond that. It involves the use and conversion of any biological resources into chemicals, products, and energy. So, if we have a look what actually is biotechnology's contribution to the EU economy, what I would like to highlight is that it encompasses a wide range of fields, including what we most commonly know, agriculture, environmental science, and industrial processes. So the main one, which people often think about, is the medical and pharmaceutical biotechnology, which we also often call by its color the red biotechnology. Then we have agri-food, as you can see here, what we call the green biotechnology, and industrial and environmental, which we call the white biotechnology. And then actually I was recently at the big German biotechnology conference, where they said that in the past we had 3 colors, and now we actually have 11 colors. So I would just like to pick up a 4th color, which is a blue one, which is actually marine biotechnology, which is gaining increased attention. So just to briefly highlight, what do we have in these different areas? In healthcare and pharmaceutical applications, biotech has led to the discovery and development of advanced medicines, therapies, diagnostic, and vaccines. So it came to the forefront, of course, and everybody knows about biotech with the mRNA vaccine against COVID. But it also has opportunities to address much wider challenges. I mean, disease prevention, personalized medicine increasingly, regenerative medicine, and many medicines to combat chronic illnesses. And last but not least, of course, the big issue of antimicrobial resistance. And of course, it goes beyond human health. We also have many applications in the animal health. Then if we look at agriculture, biotech really supports the greener and more productive agriculture by really relying on natural means to increase plant defenses or increase crop yield. And so, for instance, we have biocontrol agents which provide very interesting alternative solutions to chemical pesticides by relying on natural means to control pests, such as parasitism or other mechanisms to protect crops. And then I would just like to flag in the industrial process and manufacturing, biotech has led to the use of enzymes in the production, for instance, of detergents, pulp and paper, textiles, and biomass. So it has also enabled the alternative feedstocks to manufacture polymers, any kinds of plastics, solvents, paints, or cosmetics. And using sustainable carbon sources like sustainable biomass or recycled waste and CO2 captured from biogenic sources also contributes to emission reductions, resource efficiency, and strategic autonomy. And finally, to do this little tour d'horizon, because I would like really to flag how all-encompassing biotechnology is, we have marine and agriculture applications where biotech has contributed to environmental remediation solutions, such as cleanup of oil spills or fight against plastic pollution or wastewater treatment. So this is just a little overview to see what we're actually talking about. And here is a quick overview of the importance of biotech for the EU's competitiveness. So biotech has really been identified as one of the key strategic technologies for the competitiveness of the EU. And you can see that the global market already in the latest reliable figures are from 21, reached 720 billion, which is quite impressive. And what is even more remarkable is that the growth rate was 18% a year, and basically biotech presents immense opportunities for the EU to solidify its position as a global leader in innovation and also trade. I mean, despite, of course, very fierce competition in this area, the EU is actually has the second largest biotech market, just after the US. And I think this really shows our capacity for innovation, and we obviously need to capitalize on these opportunities. And what I would also like to stress is that the growth of biotech has consistently outpaced the growth of the overall EU economy. And at the heart of biotech is, of course, a commitment to research and development. And we need to make sure that all these very promising SMEs and startups, which are very dynamic, which have lots of good ideas, that they actually manage to scale up and sustain the innovation for the competitiveness in the EU. So this is, I would say, the backdrop to our initiative. So let me come briefly to what the Commission does in general, and then I come to our initiative. So we have taken a number of actions in the past years to make sure that biotechnology is advanced and that its potential can be leveraged. The first biotech communication actually dates back to the beginning of the 90s, when it was for the first time identified as a very important horizontal key technology. We have mentioned biotech as one of the key strategic technologies in the program called STEP, which basically means that there are specific funding opportunities available for all those technologies identified there. And what I would also like to stress, that it was identified as one of the critical technologies for the EU's economic security. And I think that's a very important aspect in the changing geopolitical scheme of things, that basically biotech, of course, has a potential with resources, materials sourced sourced in the EU and with more control on value chains, that the strategic dimension is also an important one nowadays. We have worked on the patent protection, and here in particular, the long-awaited unitary patent is, of course, a very important breakthrough. So now I'm coming to the initiative which I would like to present to you now. And this is basically called Biotech and Biomanufacturing Sector, Building the Future with Nature. And this initiative was announced by the President of the Commission in what she called the State of the Union speech as one of the big initiatives still at the end of the current mandate of the Commission. And what is very important here, normally we would not announce a major initiative at the end of a Commission mandate, but here the objective is really to lay the ground and focus on the importance of biotech so that we will be ready with all the different measures when the next Commission will take office. So let me now come to the challenges and bottlenecks which the sector is facing. So one of the key issues identified is, of course, the issue of research and technology transfer to the market. It's this big issue that when you have lots of important innovations, I mean, very often then companies struggle in order to really make it to the market, to scale up. And I think this is one of the biggest issues identified and which we want to address with this initiative. Then we have a big regulatory complexity. Because let's face it, when we are biotech is active in many different sectors. So you have horizontal legislation, you have vertical legislation applying. So we have to make sure that we reduce the regulatory complexity and make it in particular less burdensome for companies who want to scale. The other issue is access to finance. I'll come to that in terms of the measures, because by definition, if you want to scale, you need access to finance. There's also an issue of skills. We have highly skilled people in the EU, but we need to make sure that we actually always have the right skills available for companies, and we need to take specific measures to this point. Then we have a couple of identified obstacles with regard to value chains. Intellectual property I already mentioned, where we have adopted legislation. And let me also flag the issue of public acceptance, which is a particular issue with regard to biotechnology. Biotechnology is much broader than just gene technology, and gene technology does have an issue still with public acceptance, because many people also wrongly understand what is being done. I think when we look at the red biotechnology, the medical applications there, is pretty straightforward for everyone, and for patients, they can immediately see the results, and so the red or health biotechnology is very much accepted. But people don't realize that in the industrial biotechnology, many of those processes are actually much more environmental friendly. They're absolutely not dangerous. And in the agricultural sphere, they are very often, people only think about gene technology, and here again, it depends very much what you actually do, and it's not necessarily, that you don't necessarily have much higher risk. So we need to, I think, do a lot also from our side to explain to people what the benefits are and to overcome these public acceptance problems, because very often I think people just don't know exactly what is being done and also what is the alternative. And so this is one of the areas where we really need to speed up our effort. So now let me come to the way forward and what we're actually proposing in this initiative. So the first aspect, which I already mentioned and which is always mentioned to us when we talk to stakeholders, is the issue of the regulatory complexity and the need to simplify the regulatory framework. So what we are doing now in order to be ready, I would say, for the next mandate of the Commission, to really assess the opportunities for streamlining the regulatory requirements. And we are working towards the Biotech Act, which will be a series of measures, a strategy and a series also of legislative and non-legislative measures to make sure that the biotech potential can actually see the work on on its innovative potential and bring forward products to the market. I would like to stress here one point, which you see on the slide, the issue of regulatory sandboxes. So this idea is that very often when you actually have a new invention which you want to scale, you need to have a little testing ground. And taking the example, for instance, of a novel food. So basically you develop a new application, you have legislation under which novel foods would fall. But then at the moment, basically, you have to submit an entire dossier for the scientific assessment, and then you have to wait for a couple of years until you get the feedback whether the dossier is fine and whether the product can be marketed. But very often you need some intermediate steps. For instance, you would need some tasting trials, you'd need to start scaling up, and this is something we really want to explore, because there we see that sometimes in other jurisdictions this is more easily possible. So this is the idea, what is basically hiding behind the concept of regulatory sandboxes. And as I said beforehand, we have this complex interaction between horizontal and vertical legislation. So we really need to see whether the different pieces of legislation are fit for purpose, because the technology has evolved so fast, and this will be one of the major efforts in this respect. Then, I mentioned already before, and our objective is to allow innovative promising startups to scale and to help them. And here you have two big issues which they are always asking about. And I used to be myself in charge many years for SME policy, SME support. And these are always the two issues: regulation and finance. And here our objective is to create an EU biotech hub where companies can really ask very specifically, so under which legislation do I fall? What are the requirements I have to comply with? But also, what are the specific financing programs which I may benefit from? Because let's face it, we have many different financing tools. We have them at national level, at regional level, at EU level, and it's not always easy just for an individual company which doesn't have two people working full-time on these aspects to actually find out what is relevant. And we have this already working in general terms quite well with the Enterprise Europe network, where we provide supports for innovative companies. And here the idea is to have a specific biotech hub focus to make sure that companies know where to go. Then we have, of course, like in all sectors, we want to increase the use of AI and generative AI in order to make sure that we have the right tools complementing the biotech innovation and development, and also to raise awareness on the access to these Euro HPC supercomputers. Then another point, which is on the fourth one here on the slide, is really to make sure that we encourage more public and private investment in the sector. You probably know that we have many financing instruments and research programs like Horizon Europe or EU for Health in the health sector. And we also have the European Innovation Fund, which can support biotech and biomanufacturing. We have had very good experience with private-public partnerships. So we have actually a joint undertaking, joint bio-based undertaking, which is called CBE, where we have lots of very promising projects. This is basically pre-market. We have, for instance, major new biorefineries and all kinds of projects which can then basically have a testing ground to see that they can then scale and come properly to the market. You may also be aware, and there have been other presentations, and you have also, a stand here on the European Innovation Council, which actually provides blended finance. And here we also want to have a specific call for biotech investments, because they are looking in general at breakthrough technologies, and we want to boost biotech in this way. We also, you may be familiar with the European Tech Champions Initiative, which is particularly focused on high-risk biotech ventures. So here again, the idea is that we basically make sure that this risk capital is more available, because very often, you need a long breath when you have a biotech invention, in particular in the health sector, and if you don't have access to risk capital, you are likely to fail. Another issue, and here we have to work together with member states, of course, is the question of tax credits to incentivize private investments in biotech R&D activities. So some member states are already quite advanced in this field, others are less advanced. So this is something we also want to look at. So this is, I would say, on the regulatory and on the finance side. But then, of course, if you want a real market for biotech and biomanufacturing, you also need to make sure that there is this market, and that bio-based products can actually demonstrate their sustainability, and they are considered as relevant for customers to buy. Because let's face it, very often the bio-based products are more expensive than the traditional fossil-based products. And that's why we're working in the context of the product environmental footprint, the PEF, which is mentioned here, to develop technologies, methodologies to measure quite concretely, so how can you actually compare properly through the whole life cycle a bio-based and a fossil-based product. Also in this context, what is quite important is the issue of labeling. As I said, it's sometimes surprising that consumers are very keen on bio-based products, but when you actually see at particular buying decisions, very often even a small premium which has to be paid for bio-based products makes it that consumers actually still opt for the more traditional products. So we have to make sure that at least we have proper labeling, and that has to be, of course, transparent and properly done, so that you have also proper certification and that consumers can actually make an educated choice on the products they are choosing. And then finally, I would also like to flag again the issue of our bioeconomy strategy. Those who are more familiar with biotech in general, we have had for a long time already a strategy on the bioeconomy, which is much more low-tech, I would say, which covers all the different aspects, but which is very complementary to the more higher-tech initiative on biotechnology and biomanufacturing. And we also want to work very much with our international partners, because biotechnology has been identified as a key technology in our major trading partners. I mean, the US has put it forefront as one of the key strategic technologies. You have a biotechnology strategy as well in China, and South Korea, Japan. All the countries have identified biotech as a major issue, and we're actually collaborating a lot already on the research and technology front, and we are looking at also discussions on regulatory issues and to make sure that we have, of course, proper market access for all the products. So I wanted to give you a little overview on what we are actually doing in this sector. I hope that I want to leave some time also if you have specific questions to ask. I think what is that we are looking now at the different to prepare for the different actions I have identified. As you know, we have elections for the European Parliament in June. And I hope that you will all vote, because I think what's very important is that the European Parliament has a major role in all our legislation. And so we need a Parliament who is also conducive to fostering innovation, to make sure that we can actually have a regulatory framework fit for purpose. And we are then working on on this Biotech Act, which we hope will be put forward by the next Commission, which should start taking office in principle in October, November this year. And for that, of course, we are looking at additional feedback from stakeholders. So this is really the moment also to get back to us with your major points, which you have identified, either, I would say, in terms of obstacles which have to be done away with, or in terms of positive incentives which you think we should look at. We actually have a workshop on the 21st of May, which is, if anybody's interested, please let us know, then you can register. It's both physical and online, to go through the different actions which I have highlighted. And let me just close by saying that this is really a topic which not only at European level concerns, I would say, almost all the different departments. I work in the department DG Grow, which deals with industry, internal market, and small and medium-sized companies, but it's equally relevant for research, for agriculture, for health. And that's why we need a joined-up approach. And I'm also happy to see that in many member states, you now have a joined-up approach, and you have a much more, I would say, much bigger emphasis put to biotechnology, as it was the case in the past. So I think I would close here, so to leave some time for questions, because we only have half an hour altogether. So please, if you have a question, if there's anything which you would like me to follow up on, let me know. Thank you for your attention.